A controversial cure to an accidental outbreak. Is it ripped from the headlines? Are we doing crime shows this week? No, it's a 1966 episode of Star Trek called Miri. And I think I'm the only person on the panel who is familiar with it. I don't know. I haven't asked JT.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Okay,
I am
cool. Yeah,
familiar. I was there. I was on the
you're
planet.
there.
Right.
I
Not
like
this
this
Earth,
episode.
not a Marvel multiverse Earth, but an actual legitimate ultimate or alternate Earth. Yes.
I want to thank everybody who's here. First, I want to thank Sean Carter for a super generous super chat.
Thank you, Sean Carter.
Buddy, thanks a lot. For that one, I turn on the camera
Wow.
and show the model of the constellation. Sean Carter, the sci-fi model guy, makes pretty good models. Look at it under that light. And as you can see, Admiral Teague has a relatively clean apartment and a good view out his window of another apartment. You guys got a lot of entertainment choices tonight. I thank everyone who's out there and everybody who's coming through on X. And again, they don't have a choice for American subtitles, so we're going to have to make do with English. I'm sorry, guys. Be multilingual here. Try to help me out. I know. It's a mystery. Sort of. We get to a planet that Dr. McCoy doesn't like the architecture of, and we find out that it's had a plague, and we'll get the details of it later. But what's going on here is we don't try to do too much. We haven't been to too many planets. This is episode 9. We haven't been to a lot of planets. This is like the 4th planet we've gone to. You know what I mean? We haven't been. We don't know a lot about why we're out here yet. Gene Roddenberry's putting pen to paper all day and all night, going crazy trying to figure this stuff out. So one of the things he's doing is he's realizing like he is not going to give the viewer a heavy lift. Listen, New Trek tries to do this all the time, unsuccessfully. Here's the deal, guys. It's a mystery, okay? It's a mystery. But here's the deal. We find enough information on this mystery that Dr. McCoy finds like a medical facility. It's got 100% of what caused it and 75% of the cure. Instead of giving it a too heavy of a lift and giving him magical thinking, Dr. McCoy discovers 85% of what he needs to know right away. I liked that they didn't make us have to have him be super doctor. So anyway, guys,
he didn't have to reconstruct everything from the ground up.
They find the medical records. They're able to translate them. There's magical thinking here among my henchmen, but there's no magical thinking in this episode of Star Trek. What they're doing is they're hammering home here that this planet's exactly like Earth. And this is going to be the last big role for this big character that they plan more for, Grace Lee Whitney. New Trek's favorite person to say that Star Trek and Gene Roddenberry did something horrible to. I hope no one was upset by that, but William Shatner said to boldly go where no man has gone before, and we're not ashamed of that on this channel.
Well, that's the correct use of the English language, because man is not gendered in that case.
All right, JRC, we're beaming you right to the bridge. It's JRC 99 US, everybody. Yay! What's up, buddy?
Woo! Hey, everybody. It's good to be back. What's up?
It's great to have you back. Thanks for going out there and do what had to be done for us.
Yep.
Leaving it like that.
Like
it's also the town from Return of the Archons. Remember the society run by the AI?
Yeah. The clock computer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping everyone on a regular beat. That was also a purge planet, but it's
The Star Trek did it first 3 or 4 different ways. This planet's very similar.
I'm just saying, if they think it's a parallel Earth, you'd think they'd land in a more important city. A trike, maybe?
It is a trike.
Yeah.
Watch this acting move, though. Watch the way he puts it down, like with reverence. And then watch this.
Yeah, he does. He goes for it. I think,
but Reed does the same thing in Terra Nova.
I know he does.
Yeah, it's great. I don't mind the member berry though. I think it was.
It's not a member berry.
It's not a member berry. Yeah, it was just a really good callback.
And I still think that tricycle thing was a reference to War of the Worlds. There's a scene in War of the Worlds where one of the Martian invaders on Earth, the original book, idly spins the wheel of an upturned bicycle. I think that was the allusion as well.
I'm willing to bet you're right.
And they could reasonably expect in the 1960s that an audience would be reasonably literate enough to know the reference. That's
Do you
all.
know how it felt to see Reed spin the bicycle wheel when I saw Terra Nova? I was like, now I have an idea what's going to happen. When he spun
Yeah,
that
the
bicycle
people are
wheel, I'm
decayed
like,
in a similar way. Yeah. This guy's a gibbering nut job.
I have to ask, do you think maybe they used this set in something else? I mean, when I used to
A
when
lot
I
of
saw
something
Mary,
else.
yeah, that's what I was
I-
thinking. It's like when I first saw the episode, I was like, I think I've seen this before. I'm sure like Star
This-
Trek has used them in other episodes, but
I
for-
honestly think that it was on a soundstage, so they pushed the walls together. Like, we need a window wall, we need a closet
Yep.
door wall, we
Yep.
need a back wall, we need a staircase over here, pushing a back wall. So they like we have seen this room because it's been assembled a million times, and they
Yes.
gave it an ugly makeover. But this
Mhm.
room has been in
Yeah.
like 10 episodes of Kojak, 35 episodes of Streets of San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
15
Oh, yeah.
That's what I
episodes,
mean.
you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've seen it. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
IKEA flat pack before IKEA.
But that's the thing. Like, they were told by the studio, like, your idea sounds expensive. And Gene Roddenberry's, I've got this idea about near Earths. And you can say it's great, or you can say it's almost the death of Star Trek. It's hard to be really definitive about it. New York Comic Con.
Okay, so we got this girl explaining what's going on.
From her perspective,
It's kind of the
by
same way, like
way,
the language is depauperate.
Yeah.
we might be using the universal translator, but we've hammered home that they're using the same Morse code as us. So this is the first time they're using the near Earth. So they're going to town and they're hitting it too hard in a way that they're going to regret later.
Yeah, it's too close.
They never go back and revisit these near Earths, which you think would be ripe
Yeah.
for colonization. Like it's
You
just
know-
not discussed.
Just
Or
really
maybe it's
quickly,
like
hey,
an Earth from an entire alternate universe just passed through some kind of dimensional rift and came to our world. Okay, so the episode's named after the character. All right.
This particular one, yep.
this actress should be familiar because her IMDb includes the John Wayne movie. And
Yes,
to
it
quote
does.
John Wayne, she's an absolutely terrible actress,
Pilgrim.
but I don't think she's that bad. She wasn't good
I don't
enough
know.
to be in a
You,
movie.
you mean she's an absolutely terrible actress? Pilgrim.
Yeah. When I see the way she tries to look at something and say the words on the paper that they call the script, I probably maybe don't want to go too deep into John Wayne. That might be Doomcock's thing.
you know,
She's in
maybe,
True
Not
Grit.
without a gay scene.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Snorty.
I was trying to hint as like going, maybe she was rough around the edges. That was trying to hint, but somebody already dropped the golly, I forgot.
Guards, cover me.
All right. So, by the way, guys, did anyone ever see Better Off Dead with John Cusack?
Yes, a long time ago. $2.
She's the mom. This woman is Miri is the mom.
Oh, holy crap! Like, wait, the
The
mom
one
of
who
John
serves
Cusack?
French fries. Yeah, she's John Cusack's mother. The one,
oh my,
like, she's
God.
like slowly stirring the food, and like while they're talking, like tentacles come out of the pot and grab her.
Dude, I still laugh at the running joke of the kid who's trying to chase him down for the $2 newspaper subscription. He's just like
It was a lot of
everywhere.
money back then.
He's like-
Yeah, she's the terrible cooking mom who serves French fries with French fries with French dressing.
Yes, and boiled bacon.
It's a fucking idiot. But that's her best role. Let's see. She had a good career though. Like, she was never like really hard up for work. She got out of this on her own terms. She has dozens and dozens and dozens of credits, including Streets of San Francisco. Experienced
But
person.
describe
here
the one who
outside that
attacked
comes-
them as a creature, not as a person. It's so severe are the mutations. That's crazy.
And she just thinks of it as a creature unlike them too. Even though she
Yeah.
knew her before. Great. She starts out in Bye Bye Birdie as an uncredited, but then she's got name roles in like a bunch of stuff, including Dr. Kildare, Wagon Train.
Wait,
Donna
she was in Bye
Reed.
Bye Birdie?
She's uncredited, so she's teenager in the background, but she's in it.
Oh, okay, so it's like
Yeah,
she doesn't play like just a minor role. She's just a
She doesn't even have a
Extra.
line.
she was
But
just an extra pretty much.
it's the 63 one, so it's the
Yeah.
fun one.
This is kind of this spot. He says, "I like you," and she kind of has that look like you like me. It's
Yeah.
kind of a little.
Yeah, I
awkward.
remember when I first saw this the first time, I kind of squinted my eyes for a while, kind of like
I was
know it-
5.
yeah.
I thought she was really old. I thought that Miri was pretty old when I saw this.
Yeah, now go back and watch it. You're like going, is Chris
So
Hansen
now
gonna,
he's
like,
got the
walk around
sores on his
corner?
hand.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Damn.
I don't
Have a
think it's a
seat.
Chris
Have a
Hansen
seat.
thing. I think that
Yeah.
Captain Kirk is absolutely not interested in Miri that way. It's just that he's going to
He's
do anything he
paternalistic.
can to. He's being more avuncular than creepy.
Oh yeah, no,
She's
he's.
also-
Absolutely.
I know he's actually trying to manipulate her, just to try to figure out what's
Yes.
going on.
It
That's
still
what he's
feels
trying to
weird.
do. But it's still like
It still feels weird.
It's
It was
like,
less weird in 1967, I
yeah,
guess.
it's like holy
Mm.
creepy Batman, pretty much. That's what it is.
Yeah, your
So,
modern sensibility, our modern sensibilities have
Yeah.
have colored it.
virtual
Oh,
hug
we have to
This-
download them from.
This is pre-HIPAA, so
Well, I
you know,
was thinking
they
you
can
would
just
have to
have
download
access.
them from some, arcane alien device. Oh, look at this, like, ventriloquist dummy looking ass. What is this guy? Look at Kirk flipping open his communicator. What is that, backwards? The top bit is way
is.
far back. Huh?
It flips
That's
back
funny.
further than we ever see him later.
oh, dude, when I used to use my Motorola flip brick back in the
I
day,
killed
I
two of them
literally
like
used
that.
to. Yeah, I used to. Yeah, my parents
Did you
told
have
me
it
to stop
flip out of
doing
your
that.
Being
hand?
all
Yeah.
space self-racist against them. It's like, oh, you red bloods.
I love the no smoking sign because in the 60s, people would be tempted to smoke in a laboratory,
Full of explosive chemicals.
where now it would be like unthinkable because of the possible contamination of the experiment, right? For the samples.
Hey, my
Oh, that-
roommate's smoking doors, and it's still disgusting.
It's a pretty cool disease symptom, these weird scabies that they get. And like
Yeah.
here's the thing. It's the same it's the question of the Ocampa, it's the question of terra firma. How wise is she?
Wow, the Ocampa.
She's been 13.
Wow.
Well, the
Yeah,
Ocampa, like the
well,
question is how
yeah.
do they accrue wisdom?
Yeah,
But they haven't figured out that part yet. T.
well, they're telepathic.
Yeah, that's why they're stuck in the Stone Age. Without the caretaker, they would be banging rocks together.
Oh, and by the way, this episode is not only an introduction to kind of like a starlet and stuff like that. There's also a Star Trek alumnus who is in this episode as a kid.
Mhm.
So
No kidding.
Just wanted to point out,
Yeah.
they showed it briefly. Sorry. That was an early laptop that they just had. They beamed down his
Yes.
bio computer.
Did you notice
Yeah.
they also adjusted McCoy's communicator to go back too far to make up for whatever Kirk did, or it's a different design?
so
McCoy's
Maybe Kirk
communicator
is
was
just rough
flipped
with the
back
technology.
really. No, McCoy's was exactly the same
Yeah.
displacement on the top of the communicator. They're not the final design. This is a season 1 design. It's not actually back. It wasn't actually backwards. Or they're like, we're gonna keep that, but like fix the props a little so it matches for this episode. Either way, they did a great job.
so are we good at giving away spoilers, or are we just going to kind of go along with the episode as it plays out?
Most people haven't.
I haven't seen
them,
this
so
yet.
let 'em-
Okay,
don't
all right.
spoil it.
No,
No,
right now
no.
they're saying, do they get the disease when they enter puberty or as adults? And they're trying to figure out how the disease actually works.
They
Is it
have
the-
some of the clues.
Yeah,
They were
all
smart
the
enough to
adults
find a
died
hospital.
300 years ago, but they're still children. So what's going on?
New Trek people are getting so angry when they see this.
They are. They're like, how
Yeah.
dare
No wonder
you?
they hate William
Is
Shatner.
their
He's spoken
children.
common sense.
They would counter with season 3 and the children shall lead.
They would also say that, that people under adulthood should be able to do horrible things to themselves, whether their parents want
Well,
to or not. And that's
YouTube.
yeah.
I love the laptop. As
Yeah.
they called it, the portable biocomputer.
I'm supposing that it is specific to doing medical shit. They've got a medical problem, but it is a laptop.
Oh, I can see what they did with the communicator. They just
Yeah,
attached the flip to the other side for later episodes.
So as you can see here, this is the first Bluetooth. What is it? Hotspot. So see, it's the first
Oh my
example
God,
of
it
a
is.
Bluetooth hotspot.
They are kind of using that technology.
Yeah.
And Jerem, you're right. You can see by this scene, we've got people holding the lid further open with their fingers. Like they were just like, we're not liking the way this looks. It worked in other episodes because we had medium shots, but we're too close in now. Something's
Okay.
going on in the minds of the prop
They
guy.
thought they were accomplishing a person would age only 1 month for every 100 years of real time.
Good
Yep.
old Janice.
Yep, exactly. 525,600 minutes.
Well, if you're on Mars, it's 989,250 minutes.
Hold
So
on,
we'll
let me get
measure
my
it in
PIA
daylights, in sunsights, and midnights, and cups of coffee.
Rock to Gino.
It's been 35 sols since we ran out of booze.
People age really slowly, but then die the moment they hit adulthood.
Yes.
No, what they're saying is it
Basically.
blew up. It blew. The experiment blew back on them. The longevity never panned out. Everyone dies when they hit maturity.
This is
You'd
pretty
think
much
evolution
like
would
a Walking
account for
Dead
that
concept.
pretty quickly.
Well, it did.
That
Some,
means
like,
the
five-
kids are really, really, really old.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
300.
Yes.
Yes.
They're 300.
There we go. Immensely old, but nonetheless children. Okay, very strange.
Here's the thing: they can't get a glimpse of them, and they don't get the upper hand. My feeling is this: these children have gotten very good at being children. That's their learning
Yeah.
curve. They're awesome at being children.
Yeah.
Apparently, they're excellent at guerrilla warfare too.
Huh.
Yeah, it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, think about it. Right
Oh.
now, Miri is already
I
80.
just said think about it.
Totally.
But I mean, right now in our time, Miri is 80 years old.
Hmm.
So
Well,
then they did
100
cure it.
years in a month? That's a very... No, hold on.
It's like too huge of a trade-off. It's
Age
virtual
1 month for
immortality.
every 100 years.
This actor is in a bunch of
The
stuff.
Goonies.
This
With
is
little
kind of Star
rascals
Trek
looking
shit,
ass.
Goonies.
Hey, you
This Stand By
guys.
Me looking ass shit.
This actor's in
I think this guy
Scrooge with Bill
is a
Murray.
command sergeant
Yeah, he is.
major. It's hard to tell. I don't think the patch is correct.
You
So
know
don't
what it is?
focus
It's not an earthly military, so it's not exact. So
Corrupt,
they just
the
they made
hurting,
it
the
ad
killing.
hoc. Well, think about it. It is basically Neverland, except that
Yeah,
instead
yeah,
of
very
becoming an
Neverland.
adult, you turn into a
It's-
puke monster and die.
But it's not really Neverland. It's more it's
Like
more
Kids
Lord of the
Next
Flies.
Door. Yeah, Lord of the Flies, too. They're
Yeah.
living in the ashes of a civilization they can neither understand nor articulate.
Exactly.
Gene Roddenberry loves Lord of the Flies in space. We see it a couple more times.
So, I mean, is it a good trade-off? Would you want to stay a kid for like 100,000 years and then die in a day?
No, ideally, you would stay 20 for 1,000 years.
I think it takes a few days, but yeah, no.
Yeah, 20 to 25. You'd want to be somewhere around in there for forever.
They just turn into an alien species that has a slightly different lifespan curve. You know, they're not
Mhm.
humanoid or they're not human-like anymore. You know, Miri may be an identical Earth, but their species has gone through a change that turns them into, well, now they're a weird sort of Neverland elf. Damn, that makeup is crazy.
I like that they didn't change the phaser blast much.
Sure reminds me of Billy Crystal's wife and The Princess Bride. Liar, liar.
And that's another person who's in Scrooge. It's
Yeah.
what's their name?
I'm not
Carol
a witch.
Kane.
I'm your wife. That's what
She's
she
like,
said.
oh, Jim, I'm going to turn into a
and,
walker.
and a person
Yeah.
who's in fake Star Trek. Poor Carol Kane was in Strange New Worlds.
Oh, look at that! I used a wall mounted pencil sharpener. Talk about.
Oh yeah, we had one of those in my classroom.
Yeah.
No,
Kids
now
would always
I-
put them in backwards and ruin it because the stupid eraser would come off.
Well, you pull
Yeah.
if you pull the eraser off, then what we would always do is after Phantom Menace came out, we would take the eraser off and put both ends in the pencil sharpener, and then we had a double-ended pencil.
Oh, we did that. Man, I did
I've
that
had
back in
those.
the '80s. Yeah.
My Obi-Wan Kenobi had a double.
But it was specifically a Darth Maul reference for us.
Yes, exactly. For us, we were
Phantom
just like-
Outsider brings up a good point. Imagine them having a 40-year career. That's 48,000 years of a 9 to 5.
Imagine the savings account you could accrue.
Oh God!
Jeez, what kind of social security
This
is that?
society. You know what? Your Ghostbusters
Well,
go out of business right
there's no
away.
senior citizens. You die the moment you
Oh.
retire.
Yeah.
Man, there goes that
Well,
discount at
it didn't
IHOP.
work. It didn't work. The experiment, the adults die in a few days.
It,
Kirk burned his hand smoking bass behind the fucking dumpster. It's like,
Did his
Kirk, we
vape-
got to talk about your hand. It's like, I ain't been smoking no bass. Yes, you have, Kirk. We know about it.
no, this
Did
is
anyone
what you
ever
get when you fraternize with minors, which is kind of.
Well, we're going to say so much like, she's on the edge of being a woman and whatever. And whatever, it's accurate. I mean, Miri's like 16.
Well, and see, this is the problem with a lot of new Trekkers is that they don't listen to the story. They just look at it and assume, oh, well, there's Kirk hitting on a teenager when they're clearly saying she's like, what, 300, almost 300 years old?
I think what
So-
they're doing is they're
they do that kind of
sandbagging
stuff.
him with any ad hoc attack because what
Yeah.
they don't like more than because the part of this episode that they could exploit to what they like is that like we have a like inappropriate age difference relationship, which is the only way we can say it without getting in
Mhm.
trouble. But you know what? We've seen that getting pushed by certain aspects of the media.
If their age
and stuff.
difference relationship weren't straight, they'd be fine with it.
That's
Yep.
another
Yep.
thing that we're talking about being true. So what's going on here is Jim Kirk earlier in this episode said children have an instinctive need for adults. They want to be told what to do. And he's talking in broad terms. He's not saying that we should like run their lives, but he's basically shut down
They
like
look for guidance.
sir, you know what? Trans fat is a thing that exists in food. And welcome to our cooking show. Thank you. Replicator.
yeah. That's fat
so-
that identifies as something else. So just to let you know.
Exactly.
So
They just look into
I'm-
these huge stacks
I-
of manila folders.
I'm trans
But-
fat. I would used to be a protein, but now I'm fat.
Yes. Yes, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
There
there you go. Yeah. So,
By the way, I don't know,
New
guys.
series of diseases.
yeah.
A chain reaction of viruses meant essentially to extend life of the human cell immeasurably.
Usually now what we do is we build this like a fake science center that looks a little futury after this point. Like Next
Well-
Generation never lets it get this close.
You know why it didn't work? It's because life. It's away.
Oh, the corn.
No, I
Some
feel
of these
like
kids are Shatner's
like
kids.
right
he gets
before
like
they,
paid for 2 of his kids in this one.
I feel like they should have.
Oh my gosh, this sounds like my household. I got a 5 and 2-year-old.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I'm just about there
Yeah.
myself.
I'm like,
Nice.
it's like I
The
thought I
Can't
put
wait.
down to bed already, but no.
right before they turn into walkers and start screaming choral and all the rest, I feel like they should sing "The Edge of Glory" by Lady Gaga.
at least Poker Face.
Yeah,
You know what? You're gonna turn
Okay,
into a
so there's
pink
the
monster and die. Sing
Mhm.
all her best songs. Sing Alejandro as well.
Like
Yeah.
they just made it metabolic
Hey, I
aging.
like
Like they
Blink
could
of
have
an
done
Eye.
some stupid blink of an eye shit where the kids
I
actually
love
like
Blink of an
speed up
Eye.
temporally.
Did
It's
somebody
funny.
say
It's a good episode.
Carl?
Except that they invent the magic speed potion at the end of the episode and it never comes up again.
Mhm.
So they don't have the communicator boxes. Yeah. He's still got his like leather
Mike-
case binoculars there though.
By the way, he nailed it. Phantom Boomer Explorers is right. Michael J. Pollard is the name of the actor, and he is in Bonnie and Clyde, and he is in Scrooged.
Nice.
The funny
Yeah,
thing
it's
is that
prodigious.
he actually looks exactly the same. Like, you can
Yeah.
tell he gets older, but it's like nothing really changed with
It
his.
takes you about 2 minutes to realize who he is because he's
Here's the problem I always have with Star Trek Disease Research Ticking Clock episodes, because DS9 has one too.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
have subspace communication. Couldn't they like forward this off to Starfleet Medical and have
I
like
think
their
the-
supercomputers and like a bunch of doctors be like just speed researching this? Instead they have the power
Yeah.
of one and the power of two. But if they were able to communicate back with base, they could have the power of many.
Oh
I
my
believe they
God.
See how
have
I
like
worked it in there, Teague? I
Hey,
got it in. I got it in.
wow.
Oh,
Whoa, you'd become an app pupil, an acolyte, so to speak, of the
Oh, there we go.
of
Whoa, hello.
the
Quality. Woo.
hyperbole. Oh, Jadis, You know what? Back on the ship, there's probably like 40 medical personnel helping out.
Yes.
Like, there's probably there. Like, McCoy is not alone in this. Unseen in this
Yep.
episode is the fact that everyone on the Enterprise is working around the clock.
In DS9, they make it. They take this to a whole other level with the quickening, which is basically the exact same episode as Miri here. But
Yeah.
Bashir tries to do it all by himself, which is a misreading of this episode a little bit. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was also that Voyager episode where Tuvok lands on the Benjamin Button planet.
And not to toot my own horn, but William Shatner did indeed quote tweet me about a couple months ago. So I'm take a little crown on that.
I remember that. Were you
Yeah.
stressed out by it? Because I've interacted with him and I was stressed out by it. And Phantom Disney Sheepherder said it too, and not in a way
Yeah.
that's pejorative to Shatner. It's just that
Yeah.
he's fiery, he's a genius, he's William Shatner. He might not think things through because he can pop off as well as emotional. So he might level you without realizing what's going on. Because
I think so, but like I said,
Some of these
I
kids
got
have, like,
I
the-
got quote tweeted by the chat, so I'm taking a little W here. So
I think
Some of
I
these-
think I screenshot that and retweeted it.
yep, I bookmarked it, so it's still there. He didn't delete it or anything, so it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, some of those kids have the watermelon hats. with
All right,
the
so-
lace netting on 'em.
Wait, did I start that hashtag? Like, wasn't it something about like William Shatner is the only Captain Kirk, right? Wasn't that the hashtag?
that was
something
the
like
hashtag.
that.
Yeah, because they were giving it the fake
Yeah,
Kirk
understand
from
those.
Estranged.
They
New
gave him a
World.
Neptune Award or a Saturn Award, whatever it's called.
They gave
a
a
Saturn
Uranus
Award.
Uranus
Yeah.
Award.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Shatner
Thought
Shatner
it,
endorsed.
You said it. I thought.
Shatner's so gracious. He endorsed the guy by saying he's really nice. But he was like he would backed off saying like that he was the real Captain Kirk. He liked
Well,
that.
he didn't want to end
Yeah.
the kid's career. You know.
Well, and
He's
I mean,
nicer than the new Trek people.
well,
yeah.
and to be fair, I mean, a lot of people who are starting a new Trek, some of them really don't have an agenda. They just really wanted to try something, and
bunk on the head. That's the best
The
line.
the person with the
There's some
with the
Spock's
worst
brain to your writing.
the person with the worst character is actually seemingly the nicest one. I followed Ortegas, Melissa Navia on
Oh,
X.
dang it.
She's
There was
actually
the
really
back
nice.
of his head.
And
So,
she,
like I
she
said-
doesn't do Hollywood. She tries to stay away from it. Go ahead.
The nitrogen cycle, like in the atmosphere.
That is a
Here-
very good
See, here's a pattern Trek writing often has: is the question is how they introduce a question. In Voyager, whenever Janeway would say "question is," the question after was always perfectly obvious and didn't need to be established.
Mm-hmm.
Here, McCoy says something I didn't anticipate. What's the dosage?
JRC.
He's
you say
turning.
something?
Oh, I was
It's
just
been a week since I've had whiskey. We
Yeah.
don't feel all right.
gee
Go
whiz,
ahead,
I
JRC.
haven't taken a poop in 3 days. Golly.
Kirk's aren't all right.
Yeah.
I'm glad I moderated our way to that comment.
Yeah. No, I was about to say that if you pay attention, there's an African American kid who wears an army helmet, and he is actually a long-term Star Trek alumnus from TOS to Star Trek 3 to DS9.
No,
I was going to say,
No
is he
shit.
Team Russ?
Yeah. If we could point him out. Yeah. I don't know if you want me to give it away yet. What's his name? But I can hold off on that. But
By the way, Snorty, I think that this might be the last story that we have Janice do anything but walk by and look at someone. Decisions are being made, and people are starting to talk in Gene Roddenberry's office about how it's not working out with Grace Lee Whitney. And
This is
William
after Charlie
Shatner,
X,
womanizer, is about to be born. I feel bad about what happened to Grace Lee Whitney. But guys, I want to warn everyone out there right now, the things that you see about how Star Trek was terrible to her and everything else are lies straight from the pit of hell. That's new Trek
True.
propaganda. She's in movies. They went out of their way to help her as much as they could. She had a terrible problem, and we feel bad for her, but she was whatever. She drank her way off the show. That's what happened.
Oh, that's sad.
It's terrible, but no one was mean to her. Star Trek didn't hurt her. The minute she had it back together, they gave her something.
dude, they even brought her back. Oh geez, what's the Voyager
In
episode where they go
four-
back to
she's in-
Star Trek 6?
Oh, that's right. Yes,
yeah,
that's
they even brought her
right.
back. Yeah.
Is she's also Sulu's yeoman in Star Trek 6.
Yep. You know, I just
All the time. Damn. He's got it too. Damn.
Oh, jeez.
hairy arms
Jonathan,
there.
I think the deal is we have to get the communicators back, but like
Huh.
if we couldn't get
Flashback,
the
thank you, Matt.
communicators back, I'm pretty sure Spock would have been like, I can use the subspace transmitter inside this medical computer to contact the ship and have them beam down more communicators, sir. I'm sure as soon as they're an hour late on checking in, they're going to beam down 3 communicators, and if they don't get an answer, then people are going to beam down in spacesuits.
Or at least like a security detail. Okay, there he is. Dang, he's right off. That's him right there. The kid in the
Who
army
is
helmet.
that?
Right, that is right there. Sorry,
Yeah.
the one
Is
who's
he
feeding.
does
That's Phil
he have
Morris.
significant roles?
That's
Philip
Phil
Morris?
That's Phil Morris.
I used to like his cigarettes.
Who's he play?
Yeah.
He plays the African American kid in the army helmet, and
Yeah, but who is he in DS9?
he is. Oh golly, I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on episode names, but he is the leader of the Jem'Hadar. When
Oh.
Cisco and the crew crash after they blew up the Ketracel White facility after
Oh,
the Jem'Hadar
really?
Force
Oh.
started. Yeah,
Wow.
that's him.
Cool.
Wow.
Oh, hey, by the way, I want to shout out to one of the people who commented on and thanks everybody who watches them. Enterprise
Flashback?
discussions.
No, I was talking about the episode called Innocence.
Yeah.
Listen to this, guys. People have been doing a great job of like listening to the uploads of the super edits, and someone commented Jeffrey Coombs did play a human.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
played a human in an
Tell them,
episode of
kid.
DS9
Tell them,
where they
Tell
have a
them,
flashback and
Tell
think they're
them,
all in
kid.
1950s New York.
Oh yes, that episode.
Come on,
that
panel.
was a
Oh, right.
Tell
that was a
them,
DS9
Jim.
episode.
Tell
Yeah.
them, Jim.
Also, Phil
Ooh,
Morris
I did it.
played the lieutenant in the beginning of Star Trek 3, where he asks Admiral Kirk if there's going to be like a reception for them on the way home. You know,
I'm right, Phantom. By the way, Phantom Outsider's right. I realized when I said it, I just haven't had time to correct myself.
he
But
was
yeah,
a commander by then.
she was like she wasn't his number one or anything, but she was part of like his tactical crew.
No, but she did.
This is kind of interesting how this episode is written. It's kind of like I see it a lot like Kids Next Door in particular because it's like kids see adulthood as a disease, you know, like oh life ends at 18 or some shit. But in
That
Kids
was a
Next Door,
popular
of course,
thing
they
being-
get their minds wiped after they turn 13 because now they're teenagers, so they can no longer be in the Kids Next Door. So
when Phantom Boomer said this, I
whereas
wondered
on
if
the
there
other
was a
side-
connection.
on the other side of it, what was I saying?
Sorry.
Like the way that they're constructing the these like kids chanting rituals, that's the way adults seem to see the games of kids as I name shatter.
Okay, let
They
me
would really
just
have
go back to this one.
dicks and boobs drawn on that.
Oh, holy crap!
Oh,
There's-
we'll take 2 minutes to talk about how New Trek would
Yeah.
have treated this in a minute. But
There's-
Phantom Boomer
What else are kids
Explorer
gonna
said
draw on a
something that
whiteboard?
he said
What
something
was-
that went through my
I forgot
mind.
the kid had the Negan bat.
Let me just say this one quickly. Phantom Boomer Explorer
We don't have
said
the cool
something that
S on
went through
there.
my mind. Philip Morris is the son of Greg Morris from the original Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Gene Roddenberry used him in a few episodes of different stuff he wrote, including Branded. So I wondered right away.
Yeah. So these kids all think they're immune. Is that the idea here? I don't understand why he has to why he has to convince them.
Don't do drugs.
He
kid.
has to convince them for a variety of reasons, including that it's just like they've only become good at being children. They haven't been instructed. They were only whatever a few months younger than this.
Not
Yeah,
only
there's Phil
that,
Morris
they
right there.
age,
Phil Morris is
they
right there in
age
the
so
center. That's him.
slowly.
See him?
That's him right there.
Yeah, I see him.
They age so
Yeah.
slowly, they don't really believe that they're actually aging for the most part, right?
Yeah, that would make
Right,
sense.
and when you turn into a grup, it's like a 2-day problem for everyone else, and they're children. They don't have wisdom. They forget about it.
Yeah, they don't have the sense of context
Yeah,
and
there he
scale
is.
of time.
Sorry, I'm kind of geeking out here. It's like, man, I keep forgetting that's Phil Morris.
Whoa.
Blood on your hands.
Was the burning they were talking about like arson or the metabolic speed up?
Metabolic speed up.
Like the
Is the
burn,
burning you mean like
the burn, like
yeah.
when all the dilithium blows up because
Oh,
No.
some kid
Okay.
died.
No.
Before they said
Jeez.
burning, they were talking about. Were they talking about how all the city's in ruins because the chaotic, diseased adults burned it down?
Yeah, you go crazy.
Or are they
for a
talking
few
about the
days.
high fever you experience?
I
That
don't know. I'm gonna go with this one. Both.
This medicinal injectable is both safe and effective.
But in this, think about it this way, PDB. They've been Lord of the Flying it for like 200 years. This is the end of that. The end of the Lord of the Flies. But really, it's an episode of Star Trek that's a lot like an episode of the X-Files.
Jonathan Davis, the antidote was not tested. McCoy
Now it
volunteered
is.
himself. Yeah.
Tweet out
Not
that we're
yet.
live, guys. Let everyone know. The algorithm hates us, but you guys are the best. You've helped us every week.
I had the privilege of, even though I was gone for a long time, somebody had all the episodes of TOS, and I got to binge watch the whole thing, and I am so happy I did, especially now, so
Yeah.
it just makes me really happy to see it again.
So
Yeah.
Bones has done the right thing here, medically and ethically. He just gave himself a huge dose of the vaccine. Could you imagine they've been like, the vaccine works, and like, he used it all. And he wakes up, he's like, what the hell happens? And they're all like turning into like puke monsters, and he's like, ah, damn, beam me up.
This is a pretty good match shot here. They managed to hold him still long enough to airbrush him out or airbrush him in and then remove him.
That's the
Yeah, it's incredibly well done.
that's the Vulcan infinity pinch.
Yeah, it temporally
Yeah.
dilates the area between the two facial
Yeah.
cranial nerves.
All he did was just pop those blackheads. That's all he did.
Oh, Phantom
Yeah, what
Alexander,
they-
you're right.
It's a highly arcane and ancient art. It definitely isn't religious. It's just spiritual.
Okay, so
Afterwards, Stridex pads.
there's
We
a
got tr-
whole interesting dilemma here because kids, the virus works on the kids correctly. However, if they give them the antidote, would they rapidly age?
Would they
Just a
return back to
question.
normal aging?
I think the idea is
Yeah,
it
there's
will
an open question
it will
about that.
restore
How do you test it? The kid with
Yeah.
the worst attitude gets to go
The-
first.
you know what the proof is? Captain Kirk gets old. He had the disease, right? They get old. They've had the disease. So anyone who gets the vaccine will age ahead normally.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if the real lifespan of their
True
their
enough.
race was already 20,000 years and they were going for more, and now they're stuck with human lifespan? They're like, "You'll live 100 years," and they're like, "What? That's terrible. That's barely a lifespan.
Right.
Yeah,
I won't even have time to see the world."
now you're more the Alpha Quadrant, the whole galaxy.
Well, guys, that's the end of Star Trek Miri, the original series. We've been mostly watching Enterprise in these watch parties, and it's been a great time saving Star Trek together with everybody. I guess I'll throw it to the panel. One of you guys mentioned, like, how much food could they have? That was mentioned. He's like, so when they get older, they'll all die. It's like, well, that's not going to be a problem. They're like, what do you mean, Spock? It's like, they're pretty much out of food. That was the deal.
Yeah.
They were going, and I also we should like
There are only
This
so
was
many
like-
7-Elevens you can raid before it gets dark and you have time to come back.
I also
you know?
Yeah.
right. Well, here's
Dark
the thing.
Spirit.
My assumption is,
Or I guess
that
at the time it
they're-
would have been a Southland Ice Company if it's a parallel Earth.
But I'm going to give you guys my headcanon on this one, my internal explanation on this one before I throw it to you. But my thought is this: we found and saw everyone left alive on this planet because the end was really bad, and that's why they're afraid of Grups. It was pretty complete. There's no one else left to find. This is the
Zombie
entire
plague,
population of the
basically.
planet. Yeah, and that's the deal. So, with no further ado, I want everyone to give their impressions. And, the first thing with your impression is tell me if you remember seeing this episode before. And Resolute Germ.
I liked it. Overall, I'd say about an A-. There's not a lot of bad episodes of TOS, with the obvious exceptions. For child actors, they did okay, and the
They
stories
didn't
were
ask a
plotted
lot of
out.
them.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see Yeoman Rand go. She was never very interesting to me.
Was this her last episode?
One of.
I think
No,
from here on in we only see she doesn't speak in anymore though. After this, I think
she
is the
just gets
deal.
a kind of a pantsing glance kind of thing.
It's actually kind of fucked up, and in retrospect, that Kirk's last words to her on screen then were, I don't go for older women."
I'm not so dig older women.
Dang.
Well, you know what? She's like I said, she's in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. She's in Star Trek.
She's in
Is
Star
it
Trek
3
yeah,
and 6?
3 and 4, and I
And
think she's even in
6.
5. She's in 4, believe it or not,
In
which is
one of
kind
them,
of funny.
she's not credited as Janice. I don't know why.
No, but she's also given an enlisted uniform, which is
They
weird
gave her the
because
wrong uniform.
they made her an officer in 3, or at least I think in motion picture in 3, and then they gave her like an enlisted uniform, and then they gave her back her officer's uniform, and I think she was a commander.
Another character of equal stature from TOS who could have pulled it off is like Mr. Riley. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Well,
it's,
she
we don't
passed
we don't
off.
try to bring him back.
Yeah.
And Ron is correct, by the way. We had great acting and dialogue in this one. So
Mm-hmm.
Resolute Germ gives it an A-, so it drops down to PDB. Do you want to give us your thoughts on this? Go ahead.
I thought it was an interesting episode. Definitely. How do you say this? I think I would have enjoyed it better if I weren't blind watching it with commentary. I had a little trouble following the plot with y'all yapping, but
Sorry.
We
no,
had
it's
one of the
fine.
most
That's the point of this
yappiest
show. That's my
ones
take.
ever, but yeah,
That's my failing.
you can mute.
I
the chat.
I liked this episode a lot. I liked this episode a lot. It did have the golden age of Hollywood aesthetic to it. It had I was trying to figure out what it actually was like. Was there a deeper underlying theme, a message? Was it trying to say more than what was on the surface? Because it seemed to me a relatively surface level plot once you
I
get
think
down
it
to
was.
it. There
I
isn't much.
think it was a
Like is it
a-
saying something metaphorical about not wanting to grow up? Basically, is like, oh, the
No.
people in these
I don't think
ancient
so.
adults, the Grups, in their hubris, created this virus that would
that
make
would be
everyone
if it was a
kids
new
forever.
Trek episode. No, in this episode,
It's not bad
they
to have
just-
a theme that says more than something. It's not bad to have a theme that says more than what is on the surface. I think that
I agree.
thematic undertones are extremely important. So I was trying to put together or figure out what exactly is the theme, if any, in this episode. Is there something more that it's overall trying to suggest? And I the closest I can think of is that it seems to be an episode which, for children, the message would be that growing up is like death, or that it's like the next phase of life. But I'm not sure about that. It doesn't seem to be any one thing, certainly.
I think one of the biggest slogans this year that was on T-shirts was "Don't trust anyone over 30." So, like, they talked about that in a whole bunch of other shows
life
from
begins
this
at 40.
time period. They're just trying to pose the idea of an interesting dystopic space Lord of the Flies, but
It's Little Logan's
uh,
run of about it too, isn't it?
Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah,
I
'cause
could
we've got
see
a
Seems
something
like
there
it.
countdown.
too.
I think it's
And I-
more of you have to grow up eventually, or else something bad happens.
Yeah, it happens to you whether you like it or not. So there's no reason to be afraid of it, I guess, by comparison in real life.
Yeah, that's probably in there too. But I think honestly,
Yeah.
like they're just trying to do something where they're like, we don't have to be super profound every single week. How about we go to some place
That's
that's
fair.
really simply just interesting? Why don't we go someplace that's interesting? It's sort of like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like I like Pink Floyd, but their work without Roger Waters, while not always profound, still stays serious. With Roger Waters, it's like, okay, so they're better, but they were miserable, and it took like 5 times longer to get a Pink Floyd album. I don't know. It's this weird trade-off. It's like,
When they weren't
let's
watered
make it
down.
less. They were less watered down when they had the Waters, but the thing with this is they sort of have made this trade-off where they're like, we can be serious and interesting and not ridiculous without being deeply profound every week. Well, how about this week we just pose an interesting question? And that's,
Yeah.
I feel, what this script does.
It works.
I am very hesitant to draw too much into this episode. I think it was just a book on the shelf called Lord of the Flies, and Gene, took it down, reread it a little bit, and wrote the script. It to me, I don't see a lot of Vietnam era discussion about society or any of these other more academic, deep political thinking
Aside
things.
from the
I
kids,
think they
some of the
just
kids are wearing
took
army
a story.
helmets.
Yeah,
But that was in style at the time. Like it's hard to
It
say.
was.
It's like
Yeah.
I
A lot of these
I
kids were
don't
basically
know.
wearing like dress up pretend play costumes.
Yeah.
They all
As
basically
if they
did.
were, LARPing as what adults they wanted to become.
Yeah.
Basically, well, that's what kids do. They
Yeah.
didn't sit down and cut like if this was a like if this was like a Voyager episode, and it's probably a Voyager equivalent of it. But if this was a
Yeah.
Voyager episode, I guess they probably would have spent a lot more time trying to come up with like a society that seemed like logical, that made by children, and they probably would have
Yeah.
blown it by having it be overly anarchistic and like overwhelming visually.
Yeah.
You want
Yeah, I guess
keep
you're
going
you
with your
guys are right.
thoughts?
It doesn't have to be so deep to be interesting, and it certainly was interesting.
And it was fun. It was
I
also
think
fun.
I think that they did kind of shoot themselves in the foot by making the parallel Earth too parallel, but
It
it
comes
is
back to
what
haunt
it
them
is.
later. They'd never done it before, I don't think. This is episode 9.
It could just as well be retro
In fact,
explained
it's
as being,
episode 8.
an Earth from a parallel universe that got pulled through a rift and into our universe, and so it actually is a divergent version of our planet. But it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. For the purposes of the storytelling, it's just a what if scenario.
I don't think
I
they're
like
trying to be profound, just serious and interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want
I'm
to give
saying
it a 1
I'm
to
saying
10
like
or a
if
letter
they
grade?
cared enough now,
Right.
they could recast this parallel Earth's origin to make it literally parallel, but instead of just being mundane to our universe. That's all I'm
What they're
saying.
what they're trying to do is
Maybe it's from the mirror universe, I don't know.
well, the thing is, they're going to try to use this parallel Earth thing a bunch of times. And then, PDB, do you have anything else you want to say or a letter grade you want to give this one?
Among the TOS episodes I've seen, I'd give it an A-, B+. I liked it. There are some questions. It raises a lot of questions. I don't think it's a perfect episode.
It's not. Let's go. So A minus B plus. So
Yeah.
let's say you're good for now. Let's go with JRC if you're done.
Yeah. If I had to give it a letter grade, I would definitely give it a B plus. It is a good episode. Also, this was Star Trek making its stride in the American public at this time. So, I mean, things aren't going to be perfect. But it still brings up a great question of, moral discussion of like what, kind of the right and the wrong kind of thing, especially like, for example, with Dr. McCoy testing out the vaccine when they know they have very little time. But one of the things that always kind of bummed me out was that when you open up the story with a parallel Earth, you kind of want to know more about this parallel Earth and why there's this parallel Earth.
Yeah, did this
We'll
parallel
find a
Earth have
few
Roman
more.
Empire series?
Yeah, exactly. And I actually remember reading it in one of my Star Trek books when I was a kid. And I think it was explained by Michael Okuda, believe it or not. And even though this is TOS, but it was explained as there was like some kind of how would I describe it? Like some kind of theory that there are parallel Earths out in our universe, not parallel universes, but it was like based on an old theory. I just can't remember the name of it though. I think the acting is, one thing that a lot of times I have to tell people is when I watch TOS, or I encourage people to watch TOS, is that you have to remember that the acting styles were different back then. Dramatic or drama being presented in the 60s at that time had a different style than what we're accustomed to today. I mean, a lot of drama takes on a lot more method acting than it did back then. But I don't think it killed the quality of the story, and also kind of the way what Star Trek used to do, which used to pull in the audience, like to actually get them to think. that was the best thing about Star Trek was that it got people to think. It didn't necessarily had to bash people over the head with either a moral, religious, or even a political ideology. Just more of like going, well, what would you do in this situation, or how do you think that was handled? I mean, it a lot of times I remember when I watched TNG as a kid, and I used to have discussions with my parents about like, what did we just watch, and was this there was something good, or there's something bad, or is there something we could learn from it? So yeah, like I said, I would give it definitely a B plus. But like I said, this is also Star Trek just starting out. Nobody's ever heard of Star Trek before until now, or at least not until this episode, but at least now there's nothing before that. There's no established lore, no established canon yet, so Star Trek is just starting out for the very first time. So good episode.
It
He
was
might have
muted.
been.
So
Oh, there we
JRC,
go.
you give it a B plus and you're good, right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. JT Kirk, it's all you.
All right. So, gosh, I've seen this thing probably, well, at least a dozen times. I am never that excited to watch it. I was not really that excited the first time I ever watched it. I can remember saying, "Oh, this is Lord of the Flies," when I first saw it, and my opinion on it hasn't changed much. I give it a C because I just don't think it was that original. The multiverse Earth type theory, I don't like at all. I just, this whole thing, the virus wasn't that convincing. The amount of food lasting as long as it did, I did not believe. I just did not feel like this was a good planet to land on and have an adventure with the crew. So this is one of my, it might be my least favorite one in season 1. So
Really?
for that,
Okay.
I cannot give it high marks. Now it is a C, and keep in mind TOS C is like Voyager A plus. So I mean, you could do far worse, right?
I gotcha.
Yeah. So it
We've seen
yeah.
Voyager.
Yeah. So, but this story is copied many other times in Trek, and I don't think they do a very good job with it too. So, it's not like this story dies here. It has a chance to live on, and I think, especially after recent events from a few years ago, we're just kind of tired of this story line too. So there we go.
We gotta give it
I don't
credit
have
for
a whole
being-
lot to add.
I guess I'd give it credit for being the first time someone's tried this and an original idea at the time. And the reason we're tired of it is, like, if you saw the tweet for this, and I think it's in the description, like, an accidental outbreak, a controversial vaccine, ripped from the headlines, a 59-year-old episode of Star Trek. And it's just like, Star Trek did it first. What can I tell you? They had a phase.
There's gonna be people
Weird.
saying like, "Oh wow, Star Trek predicted the future." No, it was topical then too. Is
Guys,
like when people realize, like Simpsons predicted the future, and it's like the killer wasps from that one episode in the '80s. They had killer wasps back then too. That's not novel to the 21st century.
And I want to thank everybody who listens to the uploads later and who listens to our conversations. And with that in mind, I give this episode A minus because I'm not objective. I love this episode. I first saw this episode when I was 4 or 5 years old. I had watched this episode 15 times before I ever knew who Jean-Luc fucking Picard ever was, and I'm watching it now that I wish I'd never heard of him. I fucking love every episode of TOS, and I'm okay with 2 of them being a little bit weak. This is a great fucking episode of Star Trek. This is a great episode of space science fiction. It was great future realism. They really, really nailed it. What can I tell you? What they said actually happens. They weren't trying to extend life, but there was a disease. There was madness. There was a controversial cure. It didn't go down the way it did in our world, but it wasn't supposed to be exactly like it. Star Trek finds a new groove. Like their writers are tearing their hair out trying to write like the Martian Chronicles every single week in 44 minutes. They're like, here's an idea. Why don't we try being interesting instead of like super profound? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, we don't have to say anything really. Like, why don't we just like have an episode that's fun with a decent amount of adventure, and we can see whether or not we can give, people like a good time that doesn't insult them. But like, we don't have to like have like some kind of quantum warp drive stuff with a lot of techno babble. Let's just have like a medical procedural. And also, we find out that you can graft other kinds of shows onto Star Trek. This they used. This was an episode of House, but they opened. This episode has a mystery box, and they close it. They solved it in the middle of the episode. They closed the mystery box in the middle. What happened here, Jim? Jim, I found some records. Here's what happened, Jim. It has a logical flow happening every few minutes. It's paced out. The episode is really, really well paced. It's one of the best paced episodes of the series. Kim Darby gives a great performance in this, but not so much in other stuff. What can I tell you? Child stars, it's hit or miss. William Shatner, absolutely amazing in this one. Spock, fantastic performance by Leonard Nimoy. But I think DeForest Kelly, like in a lot of episodes, just manages to shine the brightest because he's such a good actor, and I love him in this. And this isn't sad that we had to move on from Janice, but I scoff at the idea that they were mean to her. I feel very badly for anybody who has problems she had, and there was stories that like, yeah, some executive did something to her, she got Me Too, but it was like 1967, and like I don't know, like there was some times that she gave interviews where she said later she wasn't her own most reliable narrator, and she was never on bad terms with the original Star Trek people, and so I don't know. I think it's overblown. And farewell, Grace Lee Whitney. It was a good idea, but what happens is because this doesn't work out, this is like the third or fourth thing that we luck out that Gene Roddenberry, his plan doesn't work out. And instead of trying to jam it down our throat, he just says it's not going to work. It doesn't work with Grace. Let's move on. They're like, what do we do now? It's like, well, we can't burn our scripts. Looks like our captain's going to be a womanizer. And they're like, that'll be great. And it ends up being great. And William Shatner was like, I like that. Because the arc was that he was going to end up in a relationship with Janice.
Really?
That was Gene Roddenberry's plan.
He
was going to be a one-woman kind of guy.
If they had done that, it would have been really, it would have been too telegraphed, too obvious. I mean, they set that out from the beginning.
We get a lot of things bouncing our way that really work out. One is that Captain Pike, in the mind of Gene Roddenberry, just isn't. If the kids join Starfleet, think about all the experience they would have. But like when, I lost the thread of what I'm saying, but I think that we had a great episode here, and like I said, I gave it an A-.
They're like Ash Ketchum, 10 years old with 20 years of experience.
So just to review on our panel, Resolute Germ A-, PDB A-, B+, so 2 A- really. JRC 99 US B+, JT Kirk, the Russian judge, with a C, and Admiralty gives it an A-. So you're outvoted. It's like a B. It's a solid B. And there's your final grades from everybody out there. Thanks a lot. We love you all. And we'll see you next week at 9:30 Eastern Time on Saving Star Trek. See you later, YouTube. Hello, X!